Hello, everybody, and welcome to Anime Sickos. This is the podcast for geniuses and the only podcast where we look at the four pillars of modern misery, the only things you can do: anime, gaming, posting, and jobs. I'm Tom, an Anime Sicko.
I am Joe, an Anime Sicko.
Now, Joe, before we get into the episode, I want to take a quick break and call out our latest patron. As you know, we have a Patreon. Joe, what are the incredible rewards we offer our lovely patrons?
It's nothing, I think, right? It's nothing.
No, nothing. We have no extra content. All the content gets released.
Yeah, we love it, to be clear. It's basically the best thing that could happen as far as this show goes. But nothing. Like we got stuff to do.
Yeah, like I hear about people who like have their Patreon. They're like, also we have like a second show with over like 200 hours of content that's for patrons only. And it's like, you do 2 fucking shows? Oh my god. That's incredible. I could never. No, the people who Patreonize us are doing it solely out of the kindness of their hearts, and because of that, we respect and treasure them so deeply. And because of that, we like to call out our great patrons when we get a new one. And we do have a new patron. And that patron is motherfucking Casey Tony from last episode. the guest from last time. He's our patron now. Thank you, Casey.
We're running such a fucking good grift here. So we pay guests. Yeah. And then what we do after that is they just have such a wonderful time because they're charmed by the wonderful boys of online.
Yeah, we run the most incredible con of all time. Which is to be charming and to nice and make people feel welcome and happy. And then we pulled the sting on them.
Right, and then what, like, is it 16 months later?
Yeah, we turn a profit after a mere year and a half.
Yeah, hell yeah. This is why I don't think an MBA program is real, because this is what it is, I assume.
Yeah, this is hedge funds. Like, we're GameStop.
Yeah. Yes. You're going to want to get on the ground floor of what we're dealing with, because once we figure out what shorting is and how to do it, it's definitely going to happen to this.
Yeah, and shorting, I think, is good. It better not be bad, because if it's bad, fuck. We're setting up the foundation for our own ruin. I think shorting must be good, though, because it's going to happen to us because we have pulled the ultimate grift. But all joking aside, thank you, Casey. We appreciate it. Anyway, on to the actual episode. Now, Joe, we're going to do a food episode. We're going to talk about food. Now, some people, some smartasses, some jokers like to pull a joker's trick on us and say that there are some things that you can do that are not covered under anime, gaming, posting, and jobs. They're like, yeah, I can think of an extra thing, eating dinner. Well, that's bullshit, and you're wrong, hypothetical person. Because eating dinner, what is that? At its basest form, why, it's consuming content. That's anime.
It's slop consumption.
Yeah, that's anime.
There's a huge element of cooking that's posting. There wasn't before, but the internet is here. It's now impossible to interface with food as a human without constantly looking at pictures of it, thinking about pictures of it, looking at YouTube videos of it, of people putting 1,000 pounds of cream into food to make it disgusting.
Yeah, squeezing food at you.
Yeah, it's all slop, and it's all posting slop.
Yeah, I mean, even at a more elemental level, I think it was always posting. Like, you're right that it's more posting than ever, but I think cooking was always posting, because again, if we just boil it down to its basest form, what is cooking? You're producing content. That's posting.
Yes, it's a chance to show your awful beans on toast, your weird pie that has the fish sticking out of it, and they look like that because I think they've been ejected from hell.
Yeah,
and they wound up on a pie by traveling through the bottom.
Just to me, Joe, when you say pudding, what I'm expecting to get and what I'm hoping to get is a little plastic cup with a piece of film over it. I peel the film back and there's goopy chocolate in there. What the awful toads on Toad Island do is they boil a cake in a bag and they call that pudding. But enough of that bullshit. Another way that fucking food falls within our purview is, Joe, what happens if you don't eat food? Well, obviously you die. So that's a job. Eating food is jobs.
It's not an exaggeration to say it's a job. And my evidence of this is like, look, every like few months I get this like sort of itch to like play a survival game, like where you build a base and like hunt a deer and cook meat and get worms and die. Of which there are many early access games that'll never be released on it. And what happens is eventually all those games become about managing your health bar, and that's like what the game is. And it's just more complicated ways to do that. The thing that sucks is I realize that's like life anyway. That's all I'm fucking doing is managing my stupid bar. I just don't even see the bar.
It's true, dude. And also, that sort of ties in both jobs and gaming, because in many ways gaming is a job. But even more explicitly, Doritos are food. So that's gaming.
Yes, yes. Doritos are a gaming snack. There's actually quite a lot of like disgusting gamer chow swag now that I have a morbid curiosity for, because I'm sort of fascinated by the premise that gamers need their own food, I guess.
It's like they're a different species that needs an even grosser kind of food. It's like, you know how
Right.
you wouldn't feed like a cow people food? Same with gamers.
These are a type of people who need a special diet to perform at their highest. And also, if that's not available, Doritos are fine.
Did you ever drink? I don't think they make this anymore. I think this is like epic Reddit 2011 humor, and it doesn't go over anymore. But did you ever drink the gamer fuel drink Bowls? BAWLS, Bowls?
Yes, actually, so I am very used to caffeine. I remember being at a local comedy show in the Southwest Burbs, and someone was like, "Look, they're selling balls. I didn't know they had this anymore." And I was like, "I'll try it." I like just shook. Like I just shook. It was very uncomfortable, and I drink coffee all the time. At that age, I was probably slamming Mountain Dew like a lot. So this wasn't like what I'm trying to say is to cause that sort of physical reaction in a teen that sort of like pickled in Mountain Dew speaks to the strength of it.
It do. Fuck.
It's not available. It's illegal, right? It's gone now.
I mean, I don't know. I think it just goes to show how much Team Fortress 2 you have to be playing for that to be the right thing for you. You have to be playing so much Team Fortress 2 that it is extracting energy from your meat body at like a faster pace than any human food could ever replenish. Like you need to be just absolutely shotgunning straight brain juice into your PC constantly, making sure that you're always doing the ultimate demo man lobs.
That's actually a really good way to put it, because when I was phasing in and out after drinking balls, it felt like it was just a matter of my body wasn't a strong enough vessel to hold it. If I had done more sit-ups and done the training right, like I could have been really harnessing the energy, but it was just spilling over.
Dude, what it was is being forcibly taught Nen from Hunter x Hunter. You know, the fucking Gon and Killua's Nen teacher. It's like, normally you have to train for a year to awaken Nen yourself, but you can just get, like, jumped like a car. Like, you guys, someone with Nen can jumper cables you, and then you have Nen. But, like, you'll definitely die if you're not, like, super badass. And they're like, we're the fucking protagonists, dude. We'll be fine.
Oh, man, I love the setup of, I understand this is dangerous, but I'd like to also point out we don't have a ton of time.
We're not here to talk about Hunter x Hunter, though. There's no food in that. I think a good first topic is we should talk about a manga that both of us have been reading and hooting over with glee and wonder. And that, Joe, I believe, is going to be Golden Kamuy. Am I right?
It's so fun. It's so good.
What's it about? Tell me in the broad strokes what this fucking show is. Show, comic. And it's the same. We use them interchangeably.
It takes place in the frozen frontier of Japan. The actual area is, I believe, Hokkaido. Is that correct?
Is the northern island. So it's like kind of separate from the rest.
So here's something also I want to be clear. I was a dumb baby. I didn't know anything about like the nature or sort of the geography of Japan as it relates to it becoming industrialized and all that stuff. So a lot of that takes place because the story takes place in the late 1800s. It is sort of like a gold rush, Wild West feel.
Yeah, it's very much like the last days of wilderness. Like, it's very clear that, like, soon all of this will be tamed, but
Yes,
not yet.
Yes, a lot of in-depth descriptions of fisheries that sort of ominously point out that it will end.
Mm-hmm. But what's the story? What's going on in this world? And Joe, I know I'm hearing you talk about historical fiction, talking about real life history. Probably not going to be any freaks and weirdos in this series, so I'm already checking out. You got to make me wake up with this plot summary because I'm going to sleep. I'm snoozing.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So, Golden Kamuy means meet the freaks. It's because it's. Look, it's historical fiction, and history is filled with freaks. So I will now explain the plot in I guess the dumbest way I can using my most available example. You know the show Prison Break?
Kind of. I know that the girls at my high school talked about it all the time. I don't know why they were so into it, but they did.
I believe it was a horny thing, but I never watched it. I just know because commercials of it were on in between Simpsons episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But the premise is a guy gets into prison and he's got, holy shit, the prison map tattooed on his body to plan his escape. Now, well, that's pretty cool, right? What if that premise was just like amped up a little too much because there's now a treasure map that is tattooed across 12 convicts, and the only way to find the location of the treasure is to skin all these guys.
Yeah, you gotta unfold the fucking tattoo.
Yes. So you have to find the freaks and skin them so you can find the gold. And the prisoners are but one team of freaks.
There's so many freaks. Okay, so like you go into this and you're like, the prisoners are the freaks. I get it. Each one of them is like a final boss or like a boss encounter, and they all have their superpowers. There's not actually superpowers in this manga. It is historical fiction. No one like knows Nen, but like they also have superpowers. Like it just is how it is. All of them are weird freaks who have a specialty where they're have a superhuman skill at some weird shit.
Yeah. And often their specialty or their superhuman skill is like a really layup opportunity for some very descriptive panels about something that are very fun and informative.
Like there's one guy who's just an expert hunter, and so he's like an insanely good tracker, and he knows exactly what to do in every scenario, and he never gets scared because he's done this all before. He always has the upper hand, and he also constantly has a huge boner because he loves hunting.
Yeah, and it's the comic is stupid. It's a beautiful, historical, amazing masterpiece, but it's fucking stupid. Like, there's a point where that guy literally has a boner, and he says boner.
Just out loud. But Joe, to your point, you'd think that the convicts, like, well, those are the freaks, and definitely everyone else is normal. No, there's like two other groups of non-convict freaks, one of which my favorite guy is like, the military is trying to get these tattooed skins off of the convicts so that they can find money. And this guy actually wants to like form his own independent military that's like even more right wing. And his fucking little treat is that in the war, the front part of his head went away and his brain is just out, and he wears a little panel over it, and he's like, losing the front of my brain also made me freaking weird.
I think he's introduced and he's like talking, and then he just lightly dabs the goop that is coming out of his head with his handkerchief.
Yeah, he's like, sorry, there's a big window to brain zone in the front of my head. It leaks goop.
If it sounds slapstick, it's because it is in many ways. The physical comedy that happens that is both like very funny and also like this is an amazing fight that kicks ass. It switches between these two so seamlessly.
I very rarely share panels of manga I'm reading online as I'm reading them. It just doesn't occur to me to do it. I know some people really are into it, and like it's like a read along. It's like a social thing. I just don't fucking remember to do it until I'm like done, and I'm like, I don't really feel like I missed anything by not doing it, so I won't try. But there was one panel where there's a bear, and there's a lot of bears because it takes place into woods, and the bear swipes at a guy with his big old claws. You know how bears got claws? And it opens up his face like a book, and it just flops. And so, like, you see the back of his head, and then you see the guy's wiggly face, which is folded completely over and is looking at the guy behind him, who is just like, fuck.
There's so much gore in this comic that makes me, like, feel like I'm seeing violence on the page for the first time.
Yes, I know. Okay, yes, I like this.
Let me sort of give an example. Like, one of the most gratuitous, weird, violent things that I saw as a kid that always stuck with me is I did see the original Vampire Hunter D, and in that, Dracula pushes a guy using his psychic powers into a wall and like keeps doing it until like he explodes and his brain comes out. And I like, first of all, I'd never seen like real non-Looney Tunes violence, and all of a sudden I've seen this, and I'm like, I got to go to a doctor. But there was a lot of things in this comic, like the bear ripping off a face, that had that similar sensation where I was like, I'm experiencing violence on the page for the first time again. And I've been saying this not in a way that makes you sound like I'm a freak that ran out of things to be excited about, violent about. It's just like, the fact of the matter is, how many types of media have I consumed, and how much of that contains violence? I get it.
I think part of the key is, as you say, like, it's a slapstick, goofy comic where there's jokes and people fall down, go boom, ha ha. And then when there is gore, it is just so unflinchingly disgusting. And I think it's that juxtaposition that, because like if something's like really grim and gritty, if there's like a scary badass samurai who like cuts someone's head off and there's a big spray of blood, you're just like, yep, so that's what he would do. But when there's like doofy idiots in the forest goofing off, and then a bear shows up and like tears one guy's head into shreds, and the other one is just like, like I would be going, I tell you what.
Yeah.
Fuck. Like, the thing about Golden Kamuy is that the actual like plot is, I don't know if it was because like my head wasn't on right when I was reading it, probably because of the fucking pandemic. But this is just my experience, is that actually like following the plot, like the minutia of the plot, is pretty much fucking impossible, because there's constantly...
You just meet guys.
Yeah, there's just new guys every chapter, and you're just like, who is connected to which guy, and everyone's allegiances are changing, and it's so hard to know who's got which skins, like who's got the tattooed skins that are the fucking MacGuffin for all of this, like who's got it?
There is a moment where... there are fake skins being produced, and it was just like who has, based on what the fake skins might be, we can figure out who. I'm like, this sucks. I hate this.
And like,
and then luckily the fake skins get destroyed, and as if from a narrative perspective, that's like, well, that's enough of that.
Yeah, I mean, and there's so much, just like, there's a guy in the main character's group who's secretly feeding information about them to another rival group, and you're like, oh my god, he's a traitor. And like, the rival group is guys who are like very explicitly set up and written to like be villains. Like, they look scary, they're way better at fighting than our heroes, they're like, they have like a sinister motive, and it's like they're the villains. And then like fucking 15 chapters later, like they all meet and are very friendly and like are hanging out together and like decide as a group to like, let's go here now. And like the guy who was feeding information from our heroes to them is like also there, and it's like, well, was he still doing that now because they're there? Like, they could get, like, would our heroes get mad to learn this now, because it seems like they're all buddies? And I got no fucking clue, but it doesn't matter, because it's just a wild spectacle.
friend of the show, John, a.k.a. Tom Selleck69, described this to me as every chapter is a real night at the movies, and that is a absolute astute observation.
Just a true banger.
It is. It's true. It's true. Because even if there isn't a train heist happening, everything kind of feels like a train heist.
It's true. Like every single chapter, you can tell, like at the first page, the author is rubbing their hands together and being like, "Wait till you see what I got in store now." And every chapter, I'm like, "Yeah, dude, holy moly, you weren't lying." But Joe, this is the food episode. Why are we talking about this fucking manga? It doesn't have anything to do with food. Well, the reason, listener, is because all this shit we've been describing to you is only half of the manga. The other half is making dinner.
Yes. There's a lot of sitting around and cutting up squirrels and talking about the squirrels and learning about the squirrels and learning all about the various ways meat is consumed in Ainu culture.
Yeah, so the main guy, Sugimoto, is looking for the treasure because he met an Ainu girl named Aserpa, and her tribe had the gold originally. Like it was their gold. The gold that is the treasure that all these tattoos are pointing to. And then it got stolen, and now it's missing. And she wants the gold for, like, her family.
Yeah, because it's Ainu gold, yes. Yeah. It's hers.
And her superpower, because they all have superpowers, her superpower is that she's Ainu, which is she's the native people of Hokkaido, and she knows how to live outside, which other guys have. They have to, Joe, I don't know if you know, but houses, most people have to find houses when they go to bed. She does not. And so every time Sugimoto is like, I'm hungry, which is, to be clear, every day, the entire narrative comes to a complete stop, and the author is like, now time for me to do the thing I like, which is research Ainu history. And there's just a couple of pages of extremely detailed, highly researched, and exhaustively narrated pages of making dinner.
Well, I assumed it's research. I didn't check it. Like, all this shit could be wrong. If it is all fucked up and not real, it's delivered with such authority that I'm convinced.
God, just the audacity.
Yeah, not what's just all fucking wrrong.
Just make it up. I mean, maybe, because here's the thing. The Ainu food, you might think that, a manga that spends so much time on, like, realistic food prep, like, maybe this is, like, like a cooking manga in disguise, and, like, I can make some of these dishes. Let me tell you why that's not the case for Golden Kamuy. One of the first things Aserpa makes for dinner is she's like, oh, hell yeah, we just caught a squirrel. Dope. Oh, my God. I got to show you the way we all eat squirrel and the Ainu people. This is our signature dish. It's called Sita Top. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It's fucking Ainu word. I don't know how they pronounce words, but you gotta try this. Wait till you have it. Okay, so the first thing you do, obviously we gotta skin the squirrel. You can't eat the fur. That's silly. Once you got the squirrel skinned, that's gonna be ingredient number 1. That's it. There's no more. We just take a big knife and you start chopping the squirrel, and you just chop it wherever. It doesn't matter where. You're going to think, like, do I take out the bones or the organs? No, you just chop them up. And then once you've chopped it for a bunch, you're going to keep chopping that for like another 15 minutes. And you're going to stop when you've chopped the entire squirrel into an unrecognizable mush. And then you're going to scrape that mush into a bowl and eat it with a spoon.
Yeah. Also, it's a social activity. You have to, like, pass the chopping knife.
Yeah, and you have to say Sita Top as you chop it. Because you're having a little fun game.
This is also why I love the main character of Sugimoto so much. We haven't mentioned him yet, and his thing is that he survived every war. He can't die because if he tries to be killed, he goes sicko mode and he will survive after getting supremely fucked up. His nickname is Sugimoto the Immortal.
Yeah.
And the thing I love about him is even though he kills guys all the time and in very violent ways, he's a perfect little guest. He's such a good gentleman, and it's not even just Aserpa doing this. The comic has a lot of them going places and someone talking to them about a dish or a culture while they sit there, and he's just like the perfect guy. Like, he's just a nice fellow. He contributes information when he can. He's a perfect little guest. He always sits so politely.
When he is presented with just an inherently foul dish, like a cut up squirrel that's turned to mush, he greedily takes a big bite and loves it.
Yeah, it's really good. He's also there to sort of like shepherd people who haven't eaten something before. Like, as the story has gone on and they cut up squirrels for the 40th time, there is new people around. So perfect little guest Sugimoto is like, oh, let me explain it this time, actually.
Yeah, like, you might not take her word for it because she's grown up on this stuff, but I'm a Japanese national, and I tell you what, this squirrel mush is something else.
Yeah, it's just really pleasant because he kills a lot of people.
Yeah, but he's a sweetie. He's a little sweetie. Like he'll... Like, when a Serpa gives a new person, like, a bear brain, and she's like, hey, you want bear brain? He's like, you gotta understand, she's being really nice to you because that bear brain is delicious.
There is sort of a very basic cartoon logic to her, too, because, like, the ongoing joke is that she wants to eat every animal's brain.
Yeah.
It's just like she wants to eat that brain.
I also love, this is a great part of her character, is that, like, she is our, window into Ainu culture, so she'll be like, actually, we can't eat this animal because, we consider animal gods, and this animal actually killed someone, this bear killed someone, which means that it's actually a dark god, and, we normally honor the gods by eating their flesh, but a dark god, eating their flesh would be a sin and would corrupt us. We can't eat that bear. And someone's like, well, I don't know. Did the bear really kill them? I mean, like, sure, it wounded them, but then, like, he fell down a big cliff, and, like, that's probably what did it. And she's just like, hell yeah, good enough. Let's fucking ignore my cultures. I'm hungry.
Yeah, she's a new breed of Anu woman who only cares about the food.
Yeah, she's like, I love my culture, but also, if I can get dinner, that's like, I'll let some shit slide. She's very fun.
Yeah. But there's just a lot of really delightful panels with historical context about food and how it's made. Yeah. And it's just very pleasant. It's just fucking nice.
Speaking of a pleasant and nice manga about eating yummy food, we gotta talk. If we're talking about the food episode of Anime Sickos, we gotta talk about Delicious in Dungeon. Or Dungeon Meshi, if you're one of those weirdos who doesn't translate your fucking manga. But we do. We speak English. Sorry.
Meshi means delicious.
Does it? I don't know.
I'm just using the process of elimination here.
Meshi is the end of Yusuke Urameshi's name.
Oh, that's a good point. It probably means spirit gun.
Yeah. It does. So fucking Delicious in Dungeon whips ass. It is about, there is a D&D dungeon. There's just a dungeon crawler dungeon where everyone has spell slots, and there's wizards and halflings and human fighters. And you go to the dungeon town, which is like a fucking, like, theme park town where you can buy staves and maces and mauls, and you go down into the dungeon and you fight mushroom men and skeletons and find gold, and then the deeper you go, the better loot there is, but stronger monsters. And then you go back up, and if you die, your soul lingers because the dungeon is magic, and so people who are walking by can cast revive on you and fucking make you pay them money for the trouble. And it's like so stupid and silly. And it's just about some people who gotta go in the dungeon. And when they're in the dungeon, they find a funny dwarf who is like, you can cook the monsters, right? And they're like, no. And he's like, yeah. And that's the manga.
It sounds like the focus is not on the D&D shit. It's just give me some very pretty images of, like, a steak you could never eat because it came from a demon.
Yeah, it's like it has the same look as like a cooking manga where like, like in Food Wars, when they're making food, they explain how you make it and they show the process of making it such that you could conceivably, if you had all the ingredients at the time, replicate it. This is like step one, get mermaid meat, and it's like, well, I can't. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're right that at the beginning, it does sort of seem like at the beginning that the author is just lovingly sending up like dungeon crawler D&D tropes, and also like just drawing food, where like half the chapter is them deciding what to eat and then like going about making it and realizing like, oh, we don't have this ingredient, what can we sub in? And it's very fun, and they all enjoy eating the meal together, and they grow as friends. That doesn't stay the focus though.
But they never stop eating, right?
No, like that ends like it ends up being the same fucking thing as Golden Kamuy, where like the superpower that Asurpa has is that she can sleep outside. Like other guys gotta go to a restaurant and sleep in the hotel, and she can sleep outside. And like the funny dwarf who teaches them how to eat the monsters gives their adventuring party a incredible boon that no other adventuring party has, which is they don't have to go to the surface and buy more food when they run out. And like that's the only reason they become the main characters. And it turns out that actually this whole manga is about capitalism, because turns out it's bad to have a dungeons that are these sort of independent magical entities that generate evil. Like the monsters are just constantly being regenerated out of like pure evil, and it's like a cursed place that shouldn't exist, but the people who control the world want there to be dungeons because it stimulates the economy. There's a lot of people buying fucking dungeon supplies.
Look, everything comes back to Robot in the Family. It's war, profitable war.
It fucking is.
Yeah, it is. There's only one theme.
And like
man versus man, and war is profitable.
It's true, dude. It's true. And like like the actual plot is all about that. Like there's this new guy who gets introduced like partway through who's like really smart. All of our main characters are fucking morons. Like our main human fighter is basically Ruddy from Shovel Quest. Like he's God's perfect idiot who has never had a thought.
And I picked Human Fighter as a combo because it was the dullest. Like it's the funniest thing.
And fucking Laius from Delicious in Dungeon is the funniest, dullest dullard with no special skills. And there's like the wizard, and there's the halfling who like everyone thinks he's a little kid because he looks youthful, but he's like, I'm 80 and have gone through a bitter divorce. But it's like we meet a new guy who's actually smart, the only smart guy, and he's like sort of unraveling the conspiracy of the dungeon. But he's not able to solve the problem because when he gets too hungry, he's got to go buy food from the top. Our heroes are the only ones who know how to cook with mermaid meat.
So, like, they're the only people who are self-sufficient enough. They're, like, not baby bitches.
Yeah, like, you got to get to the bottom of the dungeon to solve the problem, but no one can because that takes a long time, and you can't carry all that food and still fight monsters. You can't have 2 weeks of food on your back. That's insane. It's really funny.
We need to take a moment and, like, appreciate that these are two works that we're discussing that lovingly create and put a lot of work into, like, in the case of Golden Kamuy, research, historical research, not in the case of Delicious Dungeon, because why would you put so much effort into lovingly making things you can never make? I love it. It's such an inherently useless task, and it's important for that reason. Like, I like it because of its uselessness. Like, it kicks ass.
Yeah, in like both of these stories, there's pretty much no narrative goal to like spending half the chapter drawing pictures of making dinner. But like that's why it's good. Like no focus group, like no group of people workshopping something for the purpose of selling it would let this pass. It'd be like, oh, if someone were to pitch like, okay, so you're going in like a D&D dungeon, we sort of have fun with the tropes. Like we play all the tropes straight, and like that's going to be kind of silly. There's like there's some hidden stuff under the surface, and everyone's like, okay, we got it. And it's like, but actually, like half the time, we're just gonna be making dinner. They'll be like, oh no, you're not cut that. That's a bad pitch. But fucking, it turns out when authors draw shit they're hyper interested in, it turns out cool.
These works are clearly solo endeavors because if there were multiple people involved around a board or maybe a meeting that decides the content of these things, it's not going to be like, yeah, and then they all say thank you for dinner.
Yeah.
Every fucking episode. And the reason it's like that is because this guy loves it.
Yeah, it's whips. Like Golden Kamuy, any sort of consultants is going to be like, oh, dope, a series of wacky villains, and you got to like fight them one by one for a treasure and uncover a conspiracy. Oh, awesome. So every chapter, we're definitely going to have to get closer to like the goal, right? And it's like, oh, no. In this chapter, they're going to make Sitatop, and Sugimoto is going to want to put miso in it. And here's the funny thing. Serpa doesn't know what miso is, and she thinks it's gross. Like, can you believe that? She's eating squirrel mush, but she thinks miso is gross. That's going to go on for about 15 pages.
Yeah. Even the non-cooking parts are, like, stupid and pointless sometimes. There's an amazing, like, goofy part where the comic relief character is, like, at a racetrack.
Oh, fuck! Yes, he's so dumb. And there's this weird, like, con woman who's pretending to be a psychic, or maybe she is?
Yeah, it's like so basically they have a woman who's like, yeah, I can see spirits, I see the future when I throw the half of this skull behind me, and based on how it bounces, I know the outcome or whatever. And the comic relief character, who is a escape artist, aka like a stretchy man.
Yeah, we don't remember his name. His name is Stretchy Man.
He's like, well, based on this information, we have to go to a racetrack right now. And like, it works. Like, it gets out of hand. It's really funny, and all of the escalations in every chapter have such like a very like. Would you like agree like vaudeville sort of energy sometimes?
Oh yes. It's
okay,
very
yeah.
like it's as John said, a night at the movies every time.
It's really funny to have that sort of da-da-da-da, like that showmanship feeling when there's insane things happening too. Like, can you like as succinctly as possible describe what happens with the 3-bear house? Like, the amount of things happening are so funny.
Oh
like
my God.
The layers of like how many areas of conflict and fuck ups and like endangerment every person is in at every level is hysterical. It is so intricately constructed, and we'll try to get the details, but like its construction is so funny.
I'm not going to remember everything. I'm just telling you that right now, but I believe our heroes are looking for a specific bear that is stealing this rancher's horses, and
it is understood that like this is a weird bear because it's been shot in the eye and its hand has been blown off and it comes back and regrown.
Yeah, and it like invented a method of stealing horses where like it breaks their front legs and then like gets underneath them, like it goes like wheelbarrow mode, so like it starts walking and then the horse's back legs walk to keep up as like its broken front legs are resting on the bear, and then
an absolutely horrifying thing to look at.
Yeah. And then they're like, you got to catch this bear, and then I'll help you. Also, there was like a weird, I hired like a field hand who like skipped town. I think he might be in this shed in the woods. And then they go to this house in the woods, and they're like making sure to stay away from the bear. Like, we know where the bear is. Don't let it see us. And then they find the house. And like the guy that they're looking for is definitely dead. His head is just sitting on the staircase. And there are 2 other guys who turn out to be Yakuza guys, who turn out to be Yakuza lovers.
Yes, they are very much in love. It
is played not for laughs.
It's funny how sincere it is, but it's not like, can you believe these guys? It's like, no, with the ferocity of their love, he does like. He fights a bear to his death and the bear's death only because of love.
Yeah, I mean, there's one thing that's played for laugh is one of the Yakuza guys shows his front to show he's not tattooed.
Oh Jesus Christ! Yeah, and like the joke, the reason they don't realize he's got a tattoo in his back is his nipples are so weird. They're like, "Oh, dude, stop!" And they just like put a shirt back on.
And then like later, he's like, "Hey, my boyfriend loves my nipples. He thinks they're hot." Like when like the things are at a fever pitch and there's no more hiding, he's just like, and all of you people who made fun of my nipples can fuck off. The twist is that there are 3 different bears and they've all taught each other this horse trick, and they're all here now. And if you leave, you die.
Yeah,
and then like one of them gets in the house. It just like walks through the window.
So basically, that's too many things happening in the house that shit pops off in. And this is like one little delightful arc. Like the amount of escalations where things just get worse is amazing.
Mm. And yeah, and half of it is making dinner.
Yeah, yes.
Wild shit.
And to continue with this theme, we have a segment where we're going to discuss what we've been eating lately. I have titled it, What That Mouth Do.
Yeah, I was going to call it What You Eatin', but I said it was Joe's turn.
Yep. And I will always win the war of ideas.
Folks, I've never had an idea. I think that's something that we haven't really dived into on this podcast. But like anytime there's a funny joke on Anime Sickos, Joe thought it up. I've never thought up anything in my life. It's insane.
Yeah, but I also can't conceive of like finishing something. So we're covered is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay. What that mouth do? Gosh. So if we're asking about what we're eating lately, I gotta tell you, the real answer since pandemic is like subsistence mush. But I don't think that's very interesting. I think what we want to focus on is the few exceptions where we make real food. I gotta tell you about what I've been eating lately. Is fucking lomo saltado. You heard of this, Joe? You heard of lomo?
No.
Okay. So I know about this because my wife lived in Peru for a period of her teenage years. And people might not know this about Peruvian food. They might think like, that's like Latin American. It's going to be like the Latin American food I know. Not really at all. Because there's like a weirdly huge Japanese and Chinese population in Peru that you wouldn't think, but it's true.
Well, no, your wife has for sure told me this, but this is bubbling to my top of my noggin again now, as if it's the first time.
Yeah. And so what we got here, lomo saltado, is like a stir fry that's sort of like a fusion of like Peruvian and like Chinese stir fry and Asian cuisine. I don't really know how much of a fusion it is, but here's the thing about it. Salt and vinegar chips, Joe, are the best snack. Like
yes.
That's the truth. But like you can't have that for dinner, right? Because that's like a snack. You can't have chips for dinner.
Yeah.
What lomo saltado does is it creates the dinner equivalent of salt and vinegar chips. Joe, it's like you're eating the chips for dinner, because what it is, it's a beef stir fry. Yeah, you cut up your pieces of beef. You got to have some spicy stuff. You can put in whatever pepper you want, but the sort of authentic version is this stuff called ají amarillo. I got a jar of it off the internet. It tastes great. You dump it in there. You put some red onions in there. Put some tomato chunks in there. You put some fucking some pepper, some bell pepper. You put in some fucking green onion. You stir that up in a stir fry. You put in a bunch of vinegar, a bunch of white vinegar and soy sauce. Oh my God, it's so tasty when you stir it all up. And now you're hearing me say this and you're like, that doesn't sound that special. What's the big deal, Tom? Because I've left out the ultimate ingredient that makes this the food of kings, which is, Joe, before you do any of this, you take a big bag of French fries out of the freezer.
Oh, no.
You get a hot pan of oil, and you fucking brown the French fries until they get real crispy. you put them aside, and then at the end, you put them back in the fucking stir fry. They soak up that delicious vinegar juice. And do they get soggy? Yes, but I don't care, because you brown them first, so they have like the memory of crispness baked into them. So like it's soggy, but you remember what crispness once was, so you don't miss it as much. But also, they're fucking full of vinegar, so it's the best food of all time. And then there's also like meat and vegetables. I don't fucking care about that. It's
the fries make it sound like a Michelin restaurant for babies. Like for toddlers. It's just like, yes, your finest fries, stir fried, your most fancily.
Your finest fries. I mean, it kind of is. When I heard about this shit, so I didn't know about this food, because Peruvian food, you may not have heard about it in America because of the way that it is. But my wife's friend came to visit, and she met my wife when they were going to the same school in Peru. And she was like, I'm going to make lomo saltado. And I'm like, what's that? And she explained it, and I'm like, are you talking, like, did you make that up for fun? Like that, because that sounds like breaking the rules. And she's like, no, it's like one of the most popular dishes in Peru. I'm like, that can't be right, because it's against the, like, doesn't your mommy tell you that's against the rules? Apparently not. It's so good.
I was a picky eater as a kid, and I grew out of it pretty quick, especially with college. But I might not have ever needed to try other foods if, like, there was just a French fry-based elevated dish.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
One that you could cook that would actually impress someone, too.
No. It's, I mean, I don't know if it would impress anybody. I mean, it's pretty simple.
Girls are like, how do you do your French fries? And I'm like, let me tell you, there's a whole story.
Fuck. So, Joe, that's my answer. What about you? What that mouth do for you?
So, as I've mentioned on the show previously, I am recovering from a very bad depression, and one of the things that happens as you come online after a very bad mental health episode is you start to like certain things. You like music again, and one of the things that came online is like, oh, food's fine now. Like, I like it. Like previously, it was just like this chore. It was for sure a bar. Like it wasn't that like it tasted bad, but I just had no affectation for it. It was all, no matter what we got and where we ate, it might as well be like an MRE. It was just like fuel.
And I mean, you did do that a lot, because you would often let me know that you were eating a plain egg to bug me.
Well, that's because you hate eggs specifically. Yeah. And I think an egg is a delightful treat. Is what I think. I think it's a delightful treat. It travels well, actually. I got lots of opinions about it. But now that I like food again and I'm enjoying it, what I've really been enjoying isn't even that unique or special, but it's a combination of the richness of it after having not tasted anything for a very long time, and the routine. And in the morning every day I have this routine where my breakfast is, I put 3 slabs of thick cut bacon now. I just made the upgrade from regular cut to thick cut.
The impact you would not think would be that big, but it is.
It's huge, and I'm still like adapting, but it's worth it. And then I have just these like generic Jewel brand pancakes you microwave, and I just put butter and shit on that, and I eat that, and that's like obviously very sugary, fatty breakfast. But here's the beautiful thing, Tom. My medicine is such that if I don't do that, I feel like shit. So I have to. I need to do this.
You have a doctor's note.
Yeah, I have a doctor's note that says I have to eat like shit, and I have a piece of fruit with it too. But like the point is it needs to be heavy, so the drugs don't destroy my stomach. But I just really love the routine of just like putting stuff in my big stupid pan and like not having like, oh, I need to cook this for X minutes. Just like, I'm gonna cook this now. I'm gonna just do it, and I poke it and I just listen and watch. It's really easy to zone in. It's very comforting, especially when it's the first thing you do after waking, because you have this like when you wake up, this like weird focus, like you're like half asleep, but like the thing you do first after waking, your brain is weirdly on it because it's the only thing you can think about. So to
it's
wake
still
up,
loading up all the other programs from your hard drive. You don't have an
Right.
SSD yet, so like it takes a while.
Yeah, but the stuff you are able to do, you have a sort of like sleepy idiot focus on. And doing that and having the pan frying happening as your brain comes online is so nice. It's just really nice. I know it's a basic bitch thing, but I love my big cast iron pan.
I mean, it's basic, but it's because it's true. And I do got to agree that like when you get to that point where making something is just like autopilot, that's when you really unlock sicko mode. Because like making a recipe where you're like consulting and like making sure you're doing everything right, like that's fun, and you do that's a way to ensure that you end up with a good product, and it's a great way to learn something you've never done before. But it's just that like sort of like I know exactly what's gonna happen. I don't need to fucking look at a book. That's when you know that you've won the game of cooking.
Yes. Also, when you are in the recipe, like you are following it like to a T, it's just like you can fuck this up. Like everything is just like there's all these little steps you can fuck up. But when you're just going by feel or cooking something by memory, there's a fluidity there that's not there when you're off the paper.
Yeah, I mean, and also it helps that you're making fucking pancakes and bacon. Like the worst case scenario is you eat a delicious meal.
I meant like anything in general. Like the other dish that I can now do autopilot that I'm obsessed with, that we cook all the time, is we have like a very good clam or oyster a bake in this chorizo sauce that is just like really fucking good, and I want to make it all the time, and it's really easy to make because it's not hard, and it's like one of those recipes where I'm being told no now because like what are we gonna cook? I'm like, I don't know, I could go get some fucking oysters and I kind of know where the chorizo is, so we could just like
You made a bunch of jokes. You just couldn't shut your fucking mouth about coffee giving you diarrhea, and you eat oysters all the time. Oysters, the gut destroyer. I'll say it. I've never had.
They're gut destroyer. No, they're the opposite. They're the ancient food that gives you a boner. Is like there's what is this?
That makes it even worse. What are you talking about? It makes you horny.
Oh no, it's awful. And I obviously punish myself afterwards. But like,
no, okay. So I've never had an oyster. Well, I've had a clam because I think that they're disgusting. I've had a clam.
Really?
Yeah, it tastes like shit, and I hated it.
Will you eat a crawfish? Would you eat a crawfish?
I mean, I'd try it, but I've never done it, and I'm not going to seek it out.
I did a crawfish boil in New Orleans with friends, and I mean, you just basically eat bugs like a bunch of swamp people. Why it's very spicy, and it was one of the most interesting and enjoyable dining experiences of my life because it's like it's just like an event because like the way it's cooked and everything. The issue, of course, is like the smells that came out of me after were unreal. It was so bad.
That's great, Joe. I'm talking about oysters. They're not bugs. They're oysters. And here's the deal with them. My brother wants to eat oysters. He's the oyster desirer.
I'll be his brother. You suck. This sucks.
He's the oyster desirer. And every single time he has had them, the next day is just full vomit and diarrhea for 24 hours. And it took him about, I think, 5 cycles to fully admit, like, it's not just a coincidence. Like, the first time it's like, I could be shitting and puking for any reason. The second time, let's not rush to blame the oysters. Third time, it's looking bad for the oysters, but let's not close the book yet. But now he's closed the book. And I see that, Joe, and I know that we share genes. I'm not going to eat a fucking oyster.
Oh, my God. I love the little internal math a person has to do where it's like, well, how often does a normal person have events like this? Like, we can't just blame oysters. Well, how often is diarrhea from every orifice occurring? Like, that's normal.
There was any number of input that was put into my body in that day. To single out oysters is just racist.
Yeah. So I don't know. I really like seafood. I'm not grossed out by many things. The only food I did not like on a texture level, like I was actually unappealing, was chicken feet.
Ooh, I've never had those. I'm scared for that same reason. I'm scared that I'm not going to like to chew that.
It was absolutely a texture thing for me. Like it was in a very good sauce. I remember the sauce being very good, but the accompanying texture kind of blocked out my enjoyment of the sauce.
Ugh, that's a shame. I will say though, I am in many ways the seafood disrespecter. Anything that, like when someone describes like, oh, clams have the taste of the ocean, it's like, oh, the ocean tastes like shit to me. That's terrible.
People shit in the ocean.
I will say though that I'm not a complete seafood disrespecter, because I want to tell you about another thing we made recently that absolutely blew my fucking mind, and it shouldn't have, because like there's a reason this is like the most popular food in fucking an entire country. But we took some fucking frozen salmon that we had in the fridge, defrosted it. I put it in soy sauce and honey for a couple hours. I cooked it on a pan. And then I cooked in our rice cooker, which, what a fucking boon that was. Get a rice cooker if you don't have it. Holy shit. In our rice cooker, we cooked a bunch of sushi rice. And I shredded up the cooked salmon. And I made fucking rice balls. You put a little strap of nori. It looks like the jelly donuts from anime.
Yeah.
Joe, that's the best food I ever had in my life. Holy shit. Oh my God, it's good.
So when you say honey and soy sauce for an hour or so, you just put them in a bag?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then like you just dump all the rice out onto a cutting board. You wait a little bit for it to cool down. You dip your hands into salty water, grab a huge fucking scoop of rice, take a huge scoop of fish, dump it on there, get more rice, smush it all together, put it on a little strip of seaweed, do that like 7 times. You got a delicious dinner. Oh, everyone will love it. At least I loved it.
I like any dish that is like a holdable unit. You made for me and others once these like British little pocket meat pie things. What were they called?
Cornish pasties.
Like the shit they say and name their food is fucked up, but it was so good. It was like, not only was it a delicious treat, it felt like you could just put it in your inventory slot. Like it was so portable. Like the crust was firm.
I mean, if I remember correctly, I made them for everyone was coming over to play D&D, and I made them for that purpose.
Right, you were like, you wanted them to be the portable treat that they would have been.
Yeah. Oh man, that's okay. That's something. We're approaching the end of this episode, but I do want to say that one thing that the pandemic has taken from us, again, it has taken many things, including 500,000 lives. I believe that is the most important thing it's taken. But I do want to fucking moan about how it's taken from me like any reason to like try something new and ambitious cooking wise. And I know that you could just say like, do it for yourself. I'm not gonna fucking do that. Like, sorry, that ship has sailed. It's never happening. I'm only gonna try something cool and new to impress someone else. That's the way my brain works. We can't get around it. And I just haven't done it for a year, and it sucks such shit.
You can't do it for yourself, because when you tell yourself, nice job, this is really good, it just doesn't have the same feeling.
Yeah, I could tell myself, nice job, this is really good, for a plate full of roasted broccoli.
Yeah.
And like, probably just do that. It costs less time. Only one thing to clean up, the knife, and that's not even that dirty.
Yeah, and I know you're a good cook. You probably handled the broccoli well. It's not a lie.
When I put it in the oven, I did not drop it on the ground.
Yeah.
I remembered to put salt on it. Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode. 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 Before we go, I have a little teeny anecdote I want to tell super quickly about food and eating. This happened in college and slightly after college. You may remember Guesto Kevin Johnson referred to at one point a big gaming house he used to live in with 5 other people, and I went there all the time to hang out. And there was one guy who lived there. I will not give any identifying details, but he had the most incredible brain that it just blew me away. So this boy, he ate exclusively McDonald's and apples. Now, he also refused to eat the apple peel. He would allow himself no sort of kitchen accoutrements, no indulgences in the kitchen because he never went there. But he did, because I believe he owned the house, he installed onto the counter an apple peeler. A big fucking like thing with a crank and like pointy points that the apple goes on, and a little like blade that hangs around that fucking goes all over the apple and peels off all the peel, just because he needed to peel apples so much. And so that's kind of odd, but like, oh well, some people just have very specific tastes. Except no, he would swear up and down, and I believe him completely, that he does not enjoy the taste of any food, and furthermore, he has never been hungry.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I have interrogated him to the fullest extent I can think of. I tried every, like, well, how about this? Dude has never been hungry. There have been times when just days have gone by, and he notices, like, oh, the last time I went to McDonald's was Tuesday, and it's Friday now. I know about humans, and I should be eating. And so he goes to McDonald's. Like, it's not because he's hungry. It's because he's like, enough time has elapsed that it is now the time to consume food, because that's how food works.
Okay, so he doesn't get hungry in the sense that the brain says, I want to eat. But, like, he got tired when he doesn't eat. Like, you need calories.
That's just getting tired, dude. If you don't got the hunger instinct, it's just like, I'm slowing down. But, like, there's any number of reasons for slowing down.
Yeah, I guess I take for granted that when my stomach rumbles, I have a cause-effect understanding.
I think the thing to take away from this story is that Golden Kamuy is real. And there's just an infinite amount of people with crazy superpowers out there today. And you'll meet them someday.
The point of life is to meet a series of guys.
Never been horny. Never been horny. Don't tell the paper that I ever got horny.
Thank you for listening to Anime Sickos. Joe, I gotta say, I've had my fill of episode today. Get it?
Why would you fucking say that?
Because it's a food episode. Fill. That's what you say when you eat, Joe. You've had your fill. That's what you say when you eat.
I'm so upset right now.
That was the point. I did, usually, listener, I tell Joe what we're going to do. Like, if I have, like, a bit in mind, I'm like, hey, I'm going to do this bit. We'll, like, sort of workshop what we're going to do in advance so, we're all prepared. I didn't tell him that shit because I wanted to debug him.
Yeah, although if you were like, hey, I forgot to plan, chaos awaits, I'd be like, yeah, okay. Hell yeah.
Fuck. Anyway, puns aside, delightful episode. I've been Tom, an anime sicko.
I'm Joe, an anime sicko. He's never hungry.
Never hungry. Never once.
Never hungry. Don't put it in the paper.
It's the same as, like, I know I have to wind my watch every day. I don't know. I don't, like, hurt when I don't wind my watch, but I know I'm supposed to do it.
The watch has so much more meat in this scenario. That's, like, the thing. There's enzymes in this watch.
Thank you for listening. Bye-bye. thank you for listening to Anime Sickos. I've been Tom, a sicko. You can follow me on Twitter at TomHarrison19. Joe is also a sicko. You can follow him on Twitter at ShariaUncle. You can follow Anime Sickos on Twitter at Anime Sickos, or email us at animesickos@gmail.com. Please leave us a review or something. I don't know. Tell a friend. Anyway, until next time, bye.